All right, everyone. Welcome to the Your Personal Journey with Food podcast today. I'm so happy to have you all here with me. And I have a very special guest today with me, Tony Ventrella. And Tony and I have known each other probably since 1986. So long time. And I am so excited to have him on my broadcast. For those that don't know about Tony, so he is best known in the Pacific Northwest as part of the popular King 5 broadcast team. And in the 80s and 90s, he was with them. He's been covering the Seahawks, Mariners, Sonics, Huskies, and Cougars. I'm loving the Husky hat today. Go Dogs. And but also he was really focused on covering local high school sports, everything from boosting girls sports, girls cross country to Friday night football. He also followed the career of world figure skating champion Rosalind Summers, right? Out of Edmonds. Is that right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I remember her and traveling to Helsinki, Finland in '93 when she won the world title. That was really exciting.
Yes, yes.
Um, yeah, so Tony moved to Cairo TV in '93 and worked with Steve Rabel, Harry Wappler, Susan Hutchinson. And during his years there, he traveled to Nagano, Japan for the '98 Olympics, covering events such as the '98 PGA Golf Championship here in Sahali. Um, and another cool thing is, Tony, you were able to work 2008. In 2008, you transferred to working with the Seahawks directly. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, doing digital media host. So as I've known about you as well, you've been very, very much community oriented, done immense hours of volunteer hours with such as the Salvation Army, which you are going to be honored as a Red Kettle Volunteer of the Year of the Seattle chapter here pretty soon. So
Yeah, no, it's fun.
yeah, yeah. You're also doing a lot of work with cystic fibrosis. You've written two books. He's written two books, Smile in the Mirror and Here's Smiling at You. And they're both filled with stories and tips on the importance of gratitude and kindness. Besides doing a podcast called Talking Sports with Tony V, and working as a consultant for local political candidates, Tony will start, and this is why I'm having him here. Tony's going to start a Facebook and YouTube feature called The Good We Do. And that's coming in March, focusing on people all over the country doing good deeds to help others. So once I heard that you were going to do that, Tony, I really wanted you on the podcast because I truly believe that gratitude, community service, all that is what makes us can create a whole person. So as an integrative nutrition health coach and this podcast, I love to have guests on that can talk to other areas of our lives, such as community service, spirituality, finances, not only food, physical fitness, but all those areas that impact our lives. And so I can't wait to hear about what you've got going on with this, The Good We Do. And with that, Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Trish. Great to see you again. I'm proud of what you've done in the last
Thank
several
you.
years. You are truly giving every day that you're on your podcast. And that's what it's all about. So many people are in great need of friendship, the friendship that you bring, the advice, the fact that you care. It's very, very important. It's, simple stuff sometimes is all you need. I mean, you could you could be in line at the dollar store when the lady behind you doesn't have enough money to pay for what she's buying, and a
Mm-hmm.
simple gesture makes her day. Not
Mm-hmm.
only does it make her day, it makes your day, and it makes everyone who observes the action their day as well. So kindness is the way. And the reason I came up with this whole thing, I think about it for years. Both books I wrote, Smile in the Mirror back in 2002, and again another edition in 2009, and then Here's Smiling at You in 2016. they all cover the same thing. They're all really about the good we do, but it's through family stories, some of my sports career stories, other people that have done great things for others, people that I've known. So my whole life has been focused on trying to spread that. And the reason I'm doing it is simple. I was in the news business for a number of years from the mid 70s in radio to
Mhm.
early 80s, or late 70s in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And television came here in 82 and was in the broadcast. And in the early days, and I don't want to pick at anybody now, but until about 1990, I thought we were pretty pure news organizations. And then it got to a point, as you know, quite a
Mhm.
few local newspapers began to fold because
Mhm.
people don't buy the newspaper anymore. Along came social media, the internet,
Mhm.
and then of course television still thrived through the 90s. We got to the next century. Suddenly the younger kids weren't watching TV,
Mhm.
and it's all over 60, people over 60. So if you watch the nightly newscast, Tracy, I don't care which newscast, they all do their best. Don't get me wrong. They're doing their best, but they're focusing on the negative news
Mhm.
because that, unfortunately, is what draws you. If you're watching, it's the old saying, you go to a stock car race and everybody focuses on the one accident
Mhm.
instead of the race.
Mhm.
So you're drawn sometimes, I don't know if it's human nature or what, to bad news. So I watched 29 minutes of NBC News last night, and there wasn't a positive story until the 29th minute.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, this at some point has to grind you down.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
what we're fighting against. You doing a great job, others are as well. And we got to
Mhm.
continue the fight.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think you hit on the nose too, is as I don't know if it's part of our human nature to seek out those things, maybe as a we have to be aware because that would save our lives, right? If we were out in the
Oh,
wild. So we are
that's
very
true.
attuned to it. But also I think what we're learning more and more is also the impact of our mental health by all we hear is if we all we hear is negative, and also um news that could be skewed to an opinion as opposed to just being this is what happened and neutral.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
can really be harmful to our mental health, therefore causing stress, therefore also to our physical health. And the idea that if we can put out good news and find the good that really is happening out there and get it out there, people will have more hope and maybe not feel so um you know sometimes you can feel like there's nothing you can do, and
Yeah.
that there
Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
that's what I would love to talk about too, is we can feel like we're small and we're
Yeah.
insignificant, right? um but you mentioning you're going to start this feature utilizing social media, utilizing YouTube, and you're one person, but one person can be like a pebble in the water, and then you make a ripple effect, and
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and so so yes, I agree. I saw, I'm old enough to remember, when, gosh, we still had to do the little to go to the TV and turn the knob, and you had 13,
Sure.
maybe
That's right.
13 stations, right?
That's right. Yeah. No remote, no nothing.
I know, and yeah, the foil, tin foil.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or if
yeah,
you grab the antenna and stick out your arm, you got better reception.
exactly. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
was
so
think,
go ahead.
It's
Yep.
so true. I was just reminiscing the other day, watching the 58th Super Bowl on Sunday. Uh, I actually saw the first Super Bowl on television in 1967. And the funniest part of all is that the national anthem was done by the Grambling Marching Band, and the halftime show was put on by the University of Arizona Marching Band at the first Super Bowl ever.
Oh, wow.
Commercial ad cost $44,000 for 30 seconds, which in those days was a lot of money.
Mhm.
This year it's $7 million. And so many things have changed. I watched the first one on a 14-inch RCA black and white TV set. And I'm so thrilled. People go, it's funny, people call you old if you're 40. Well, I'm almost double that. And I am proud to be the age I am. I'm also happy to be where I am because I was able to see all of the things that in person that most people have to read about. And it
Mhm.
just doesn't bother me. It's never bothered me to be a certain age. And
Mhm.
that's really half the battle. But so let
Mhm.
me go back. Can I tell you one quick story about how
Mhm.
this started, and then we can jump in. There was my sister passed of cystic fibrosis back in 1956, my sister Bunny. Um, and so I was in sixth grade.
Mhm.
She was in fifth grade. So it was March of 1956. We were very close. She was a sweetheart. But the night before she passed, my mother and father were driving her from our hometown in Southern Connecticut to Yale New Haven Hospital because she was having trouble breathing. She had TF and it's a lung disease. And
Mhm.
she was basically on her last couple days. It's a rainy night. Get this now. It's a rainy night in March. They're driving up the Merritt Parkway in Connecticut, and the car stalls. So here's my sister in the back seat, literally dying.
Mhm.
A mother and father in the front seat. They're panicked. Nobody's on the highway
Mhm.
except for them. My mother is praying immediately. Within 20 seconds, a woman pulled up beside them, and there was nobody out that night. Woman pulled up, said, "Can I help you?" They said yes. That woman drove them to the hospital.
Oh.
My sister did pass 2 days later, but for my parents, it was one of the nicest
Mhm.
gestures ever. And I remember it. It's the
Mhm.
first time, first of many examples. And
Mhm.
that comes back to me every time I think of the good
Mhm.
we do. And then I'll throw this one in too. About a year before that, my dad had spent the $8,000 he had saved up for years to put down on a house that he would then turn into his business, his barbershop,
Barbershop.
with the two adjoining. There was an upstairs and downstairs. The upstairs would be an apartment, downstairs would be the shop. So his rent would pay his mortgage. So he had the place for 1 month. And the biggest flood in the history of Norwalk, Connecticut, drove water to within a foot of the ceiling. And
What? Oh my
yeah, so
goodness.
here he is walking through the living room with a shovel, getting the mud off the floor. And
Mhm.
there's a knock at the door. And my dad is in no mood to talk to anybody because he thinks he's lost all his money. And
Mhm.
the guy goes, "I'm from the Red Cross." And my dad goes, "I'm sorry, I can't
Give me
afford to give
money.
you a donation." And the Red Cross guy goes, "No, you don't understand. We're here to help you." And
Oh.
that changed his attitude and that brought him back. And that allowed him to open that business and stay in business for the next 25 years, all
Mhm.
because of a good deed. And
Mhm.
so those are my memories. And
Mhm.
that's why I've always been about this. And
Mhm.
now I think it's time for me to spread the news even more than I think I have been. So
Mhm.
that's the history of it.
Very good. Well, and what I love is that you we don't know really how we truly impact someone when we do something kind. We know for that moment, and then they may walk off and, they live their life. And you're a great example of here's a woman that didn't have to stop,
Right.
could have kept going, right? But
Yeah.
how you we don't know who she is. You don't know who she is,
No.
but she has created such a positive, you know, resonance within you that you've remembered ever since. And then that for your father, and so we can
Oh,
think
so
that, yeah, we can think, oh, it's just, something small, but I can think back too of things that people have done for me, that I will always remember. They probably forgot all about the kindness, that was given, but it made a difference. And so, yeah, yeah,
yes. You know
yeah.
what's funny too? I was so grateful to be in television and broadcasting for literally
Mhm,
40 plus years before
mhm,
joining the Seahawks. And one thing happened when I was at King, I never forget this. There was a Asian, I can't remember the name. It was mostly Japanese, uh, senior, not just a senior center, but it was a care center downtown
mhm.
Seattle for elderly Asian people. And I got a call from a woman, Japanese lady, and said, my husband, I think it was your husband, I believe it was, elderly man, had Alzheimer's. She
Mhm.
said he remembers nobody except he recognizes you
Oh,
on King 5 every night. He said the only time his face changes expression is when you're on and he smiles.
mm,
Is it possible that you could visit? So I want to tell you, it was one of the most emotional days of my life. I went to see him and I got down close to him within a foot and I said, hello. And he began to cry. And his wife began to cry. And I began to cry. And everybody cried. And I'm thinking, I haven't done a thing except I was on TV every night. But the fact that he was able to express his joy for anything in front of his relatives, I'll take a teeny bit of credit, but not much. And that was
mhm.
one of the most gratifying moments of my life. So it was a
And
special moment.
and I love how well, number one, I think about that that you got the phone call and then just realizing I can take a moment, I can go over there and see what happens. And then just again, nothing, how do I say this? It wasn't hard for you to go do that, yet it made such a difference
It's
for
an
everyone.
opportunity, Tracy. It's an
Mhm,
opportunity. And
mm,
long before broadcasting, my dad was a barber. So
mhm,
when I was 14, he taught me how to cut hair. And I tell that story all the time. So I cut hair till I got my license when I was 17 and I worked in his shop. So
mhm,
we're working one day and he gets a call from a man who was a woman whose husband was dying of cancer.
mm,
And she
mhm,
said, could Tony come over? Because I was his barber. I was
mm,
only 18 at the time.
mhm, mhm,
Could Tony come and give him a haircut? He's not
mhm,
going to be around in another couple of weeks, is all.
mhm,
So I went to his house in Wilton, Connecticut. And the other thing that came to mind as I was driving was, what will I say? How do
mm,
I act? What do I do? And
mhm,
I prayed on the way over. And it came to me, don't act any different. Just be who you are.
mhm,
He knows he's dying. Everybody
mhm,
knows.
mhm,
I don't have to say, I'm sorry, I'm praying for, I don't have to do any of that. Just
mhm.
go and do what you did when you cut his hair at the shop. So
Right.
we had a wonderful time. He thanked me, his wife thanked me, and then he did pass a couple weeks later. She wrote me a note, but I learned all of that behavior from my mother, my church, my sister. And I'm so grateful for a
Mhm,
lifetime of lessons.
mhm.
And you don't do it, you do feel better when you do it, but you don't do it to feel better. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, it does. It impacts. I think everyone experienced that. I think as humans, we truly are giving. We have the potential to be loving. We have the potential to create, to do all these amazing things if we can. I think one of the main things I've learned is to come from, like you just said, you were worried about what you were going to say. You were worried about how you should act. But it's interesting when we can take those walls down, we can, number one, that just feels better. I don't know. I am learning this concept is called breathing from your heart.
Yeah.
Every breath is really, and at first, I'll be honest, I was like, that sounds so silly. I have such an analytical, and we all have we need our analytical minds. We need that to do things. But at the same time, the heart is such an important part of our energy. And you can feel when it's closed. You can feel this heaviness when you're not letting it, when you're not, coming from a place that's open. And I'm sometimes too, I thought about it again with Dave's passing. I've had to really come to grips with some of this stuff. And I knew I didn't want to feel closed the rest of my life the way I felt after he passed, so I had to learn to breathe through my heart, learn not to worry about what I said, learn to be authentic and be okay with it. Um, and when we do that, then I think we see opportunities to be
Yes.
kind.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, we do. I
you
mean,
know, we take the focus off ourselves and just be okay. Like, oh my gosh, looking around.
that's the
Okay,
key.
there's
That
someone that might
is,
need something.
well, you were so right about that. It's funny too, because I started to make a list. I've got a
Oh,
little manila folder.
mm-hmm,
Because I was making a list of where to start with collecting all these stories. There's a man up in Edmonds. You may know Michael Reagan.
mm-hmm,
Michael is a just a brilliant artist, and he was in Vietnam in the '60s in combat twice.
mm-hmm,
And the first time a fellow soldier was killed, he basically rested his head in Michael's arms as he died.
mm-hmm,
And Michael was a kid. I mean, he was just a young kid. He'd been an art student. He had been drawing portraits of his buddies just for the heck of it, for a hobby. But it was at that moment he decided that there was a calling. So he drew a beautiful portrait of this soldier that had passed, and he sent it to his parents.
mm-hmm.
That was 2,200 portraits ago. He does. I've got to get his website. I
I think I
cannot
know
do him
exactly
any
who you're
justice.
talking about. Yes.
Michael Reagan.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, Not only did he do my portrait when I was on television at King 5, just because he was a cool guy, but as soon as I did an interview with him several years ago for an article I was writing, a local magazine, about what he does, he asked me about my sister Bunny.
mm-hmm,
And next thing I know, he calls me, Tony, come on up. I got something for you. It's on my wall behind me,
mm-hmm.
but he gave me a portrait of Bunny.
Oh, I
And I
love
thought that
it.
was the sweetest thing ever.
Mm-hmm,
But the man, Michael Reagan, you can Google him, spells it the same way as Ronald Reagan. He was not
mm-hmm,
related
mm-hmm,
because Ronald Reagan has a son named Michael. There's a different Michael Reagan. This guy's in Edmonds. He is well known in that area.
mm-hmm,
And I think his website is
mm-hmm.
fallenheroes.com or something like that. And you've got to go there and just Google him. And there's a guy who has done this thousands of times. Boy, you remember the Sandy Hook murders in Newtown, Connecticut? All the
Mhm,
12 kids who were killed.
mhm,
He and I talked about it right after it happened. He didn't know what to do. He didn't
mhm,
want to reach out to them. Here's a stranger calling a principal of a school in
mhm,
Newtown, Connecticut, because he wants pictures of the kids. How weird is that going to be? So,
mhm,
but a friend of his shows you how connected people are when you have the right frame of mind. A friend of his
mhm.
called him and said, Michael, I know the principal of that school. Can I call her and suggest? So, long story short, he ended up doing a portrait of every one of those children and sent them to the family. The guy's brilliant. So,
Wow.
please, and as a matter of fact, you want to get somebody on your podcast, that's a guy to get.
I will ask him. I would
let
love it
me,
if I can get connected. That would be wonderful. I
I'll
would
send you his
love to
email
do
today.
that. Yes, that's one thing I was hoping people, if people know of someone that'd be really
Oh,
good for
God,
the
yeah.
podcast, please send them my way. I would love to
That'd be,
interview them. Hmm.
that'd be perfect. In fact,
Yeah,
shouldn't be
yeah.
doing this while I'm talking to you, so I
No,
won't, but
it's good. That's why I love this podcast. It's like I
I'll
treat it
send
as
it to
live.
you.
It used to be live and but it was just too hard to schedule. And so now I still treat it live. Stuff's
Yeah.
gonna happen. I want it to feel authentic and
Well, I tell you what's fascinating, Trace, is that when you see, if he, depending on where he does it, if he does the podcast in his studio, it's
hmm
the most amazing house
hmm
I've ever been to. It's up in the hills there in Edmonds, up
hmm
from the waterfront. I've gone to meet him in his house. We've walked to the waterfront and back,
hmm
and he's many times. But anyway, so Michael he's got toys in his house. He's got model airplanes, model car. He's like 12. You know what I mean? He's not. He's 70 or whatever. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said to him, "Can I live at your house
hmm
for like a year? Because it's cool." And then, of course, he's got many of the portraits
hmm
that he's done,
hmm
and it's just an incredible story. One
Yeah,
of many. But anyway, so he's on my list,
I love
along with so many others,
it.
different churches I know who do free
hmm
dinners for homeless.
hmm
Uh,
hmm
Seahawk veteran Doug Baldwin
Oh,
will open a
hmm
community center in Renton
hmm
that has a mental and physical health clinic that's free to the neighbors in
hmm
Renton, Washington. There's so many people out there doing wonderful deeds. Pete Carroll, who recently was let go as coach of the Seahawks, did so much good stuff while he was here. So it just goes
Yeah.
on and on and on.
And I think, there, what I love what you're saying too, is say with, Michael Reagan, for example, he had this talent
Yeah, yeah,
and an incredible talent. And again, where he knew he wanted to do something with it and he followed that instinct and is making incredible impact on people. Um, you know, Baldwin's, center that you just told me about. And I think it's just us getting out of our own way. And again, we can have that part of our brain says, oh, again, I'm not that big a deal. I really can't make that big of a impact. But even again, that impact we make with someone that we don't even know, they will remember. I think I remember once, so my son was in Atlanta for a while. He just moved back, he and his wife, but as a firefighter there. And so Dave and I flew back to visit, and this car had stalled. It was an electric vehicle, was stuck in the street, and everyone's going around him and all this and that. And I have these great pictures of out goes my son and Dave, and they're trying to push this electric vehicle, which was so hard. And
oh,
then
yeah,
other
yeah.
people started to push them. And, and I have this great video. It's cold and it's just awful outside, and we have no clue who this person is. We don't know, but I have to think, getting rescued on the side of the road or having someone brave enough to stop or even just go talk to, someone that looks like maybe they're a little lost. Just if we can just be more aware and look for opportunities to serve. And it can be, in fact, last weekend I was up visiting my dad, and for the first time I was able to visit his church with him and my stepmom. And the whole service was about doing good where you are. As much
Yeah,
as what you said earlier was about, you can be in line at the store and somebody is short some change. And if you have the ability to help them buy their grocery, whatever it might be, $1 that they need or something, but to be attuned and because we can get so caught up in our own selves,
sure,
in
sure,
yeah.
sure.
And that's the other thing I learned. If we're really stressed and we have a hard time being in a present state and then we're not like feeling gratitude, we can miss all of this good stuff going on,
Sure.
because
Yeah, yeah.
we're not in a We're not, our brain is in survival. So it's
Yeah,
not looking outside of yourself.
no, I
And
agree. I agree. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's funny. There's so much that you can do that's good for your well-being out there. Everything from, I'm a little bit over the top on this stuff. I will not. I if I'm feeling like I need a little boost, I will watch a musical.
Hmm.
I will never watch a horror. I don't think I've ever seen a real horror movie, a scary movie that I've
Hmm.
liked, and
Hmm.
I will not watch anything with murder in it. I just
Hmm.
won't. I don't need to. Any
Hmm.
of the shows on television that
Hmm.
are all about, I don't, whatever they're about.
True
I
crime and
will
stuff.
watch The
Oh,
Sound of
oh.
Music. I will watch Casablanca 10 times
Hmm.
before I'll watch a negative movie.
Hmm.
And it's just funny because it makes me feel better. I learned that as a kid growing up in a Christian Science church,
Hmm.
which of course has taken a beating over the years. People saying, "Oh, what do you mean? What's Christian Science?" And what
Hmm.
does that mean? You don't believe in medicine? I'm going, no, no, you don't get it. It's all about it's the fact that there's one God and there's a supreme being, and
Hmm.
we're all controlled by, we're all part of this little cloud of love, or whatever you want to call it. And well, not only do I believe in doctors, I pray for them
Hmm.
to do well. I may not
Yeah.
want to go to one, you know what I mean?
But
But
we
I'm gonna
need them.
yeah, I'm
Our
gonna keep
bodies
good
need them, and
thoughts.
we need
And
them. And yeah,
so I'm
absolutely.
gonna ask you a question. This is off the wall, but
Oh
I just
goodness, I
bought
cannot imagine.
when I knew when I knew that I was going to be laid up for a few months after my knee surgery. I had no idea that I'd be, doing because I'm being treated for a little blood thing right now. I'm going to have to go in for
Hmm.
whatever it's called. I mean, I could say chemo, but people get scared when they hear that. But basically, that's what it is. So I'll be doing that, and
Hmm.
I've decided to buy a puzzle because I
Yes.
think I think I might just have
Oh,
I might have more
fun.
time than that.
Yes.
What do you think of that? I love books.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
all about it's the inside of a library. My question is that a good idea to do a puzzle? Doesn't that make you feel better? Would you
So
recommend a puzzle?
I would recommend a puzzle, especially if you like doing them and it makes you happy. Absolutely. One of my very good friends, he is he's like, I don't know, he can see shapes and knows, and he can get these 1,000 piece puzzles together so fast.
Yeah,
But yeah, I have a bunch of puzzles waiting for me,
yeah,
but they're
me
fun,
too.
they're fun. And when you can
Yeah,
get yourself to sit down, I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. While
yeah.
you're,
So yeah, I went to Barnes and Noble, bought a puzzle. And the cool thing is this one is all about books, but I mean
mm-hmm.
there's one about the 60s, there's one with nothing but popsicles on it, Broadway shows, different kinds of movies, cereal. But I'm so excited to start this. And of course, I'm reading, I'm Googling about how to start a puzzle, which is kind of pathetic. I could just do it myself. I know
I
you
didn't know they would have that. You do the outside. Yep.
find the edges first, then you put all the colors together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Mika, my wife, is kind of laughing at me, not laughing at me, but smiling, going, "When are you going to start that puzzle? When's that puzzle going to start?" So anyway,
Yeah, I love
that's
it.
my goal now.
Well, and I think what's great too is that one thing, it's like for health purposes and brain health, it's good to do stuff like that. You want to, keep your brain challenged and give it things to work on and versus just sitting in front of a TV.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, it'll be fun to see how your brain likes it.
No, I think it's going to be. There's small victories in a puzzle,
There
and for
are.
me, it literally is finding two pieces that fit each other, and I'll go from there. This has
Yep.
1,000 pieces,
Yeah, you can
so
do it.
if I can start with two, that'll leave me only 998.
That's right. That's
Well,
right.
look at what we did back in the 80s.
Mhm.
We did something that to me is the most fun part of my life and will always be. The show, the 25 or so shows, mostly comedies that I've been involved with. You start from nothing. You
Mhm.
absolutely start from scratch.
Yeah.
And you're going, how in the world am I going to learn 45 pages of lines? But you do. And when
Mhm.
you have and you present it, there is no greater feeling.
Mhm.
I don't care whether it's ice skating or tennis or
Mhm.
running or podcasts.
Mhm.
You're always going to be a little rugged when you start, but
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
Keep it going. That's the key.
Well, and I love your point, yes, because in theater and music and sometimes too in these shows, it's still like feels like chaos just going into dress rehearsal and you're like, this ain't gonna happen. I don't know how this is gonna come together. Oh, this is gonna be a disaster, and
Yeah.
then all the little fine tuning happens. And definitely, with the show that I did with you, The Odd Couple was so fun. I didn't, and just
Was
you come from like reading these scripts and developing characters and rehearsing and then again memorizing dialogue and then the shows that Dave and I did with the choir, again, it was
yeah.
just like, you're like, how the heck is this whole production come together? But everyone's doing their little part, and then makes this something pretty amazing, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So again, I'll loop back to the theme here, the good we do. It's just again, we can all think we're just a little insignificant piece of the puzzle, or we can't make a difference. Well, you has anyone made a puzzle and they realize that one piece is missing and how depressing that is? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what if you were that piece of puzzle that needed, if that one little good deed, you could have filled that little void for someone. So
It's so
I
true.
think if
Yeah.
we can give ourselves the freedom to, no matter how small, that we don't have
Yeah.
to, yeah, no matter how small it, and of course you're doing all that work to raise money because of your sister's passing, and you're so involved with that and making a difference for so many in her name and her honor, you know, making a difference for others
Yeah.
and
But and no, that's a great event. It's coming up May 19th, by the way.
oh,
May 19th, Seattle Center,
mm-hmm,
right by the mural on the stage. We kick off at 1 o'clock the Great Strides
mm-hmm,
Walk for CF. And it's not
yeah,
a very long one. It used to be 3.5 miles down to the waterfront and back, but we shortened it the last several years to make sure that some of the older people that come, some of the young kids
mm-hmm,
who were
mm-hmm,
in strollers. So it's only a mile and a half. It's a wonderful event.
mm-hmm,
There's a big barbecue after it's over, and
mm-hmm,
kids that have CF today. My sister only lived to be 11,
mm-hmm.
but people are living into their 50s and 60s now with the
Wow.
research being done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really worth it. And it's May 19
Okay.
at Seattle Center. So, hey, by the
Mm-hmm.
way, I'm going to give Doug a call today, Doug Baldwin. He would
Oh,
be a great interview because
I'd
this
be honored.
this Family First Community Center, which opened
Mhm.
last July, was a 10-year project. He thought about it 10 years ago when they won the
Mhm.
Super Bowl, based on the community center that he went to as a kid in Florida. That dream has always been with him.
Mhm.
And it is a magnificent facility and building and idea. Let's face it, you're an NFL player, you made pretty good money.
Mhm.
You don't need to do anything. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah,
physically,
could
you
just
don't need, you can
retire.
just take your
Mhm.
money and retire. But he's a giver. And not only that, but I have consulted him
Mhm.
thanks to the number of people I know in different towns who are on city councils who've asked me
Mhm.
about community centers. I've said, let me put you in touch with Doug. So he's suddenly bouncing around
Oh,
talking to people about opening one in their town.
no,
So there
that's
you go.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Oh, yes, yes. And you brought up something really, really good too, is does it really matter how long your vision takes, right? And not really.
No,
It's taken 10 years, a decade to get it to this point. And, what a legacy to leave.
sure.
Well,
Yeah,
leave to your community, right?
that's
So,
it.
so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can, that's other areas where we can stop ourselves. Oh, it's gonna take too long.
yeah, yeah.
So like, but you're gonna be doing something else anyway. You're gonna be doing stuff every day anyway. So
Sure,
why not work
sure.
on your dream? Why not work on that vision that you had to create,
Well, I think, and you know what, too, Tracy, I think it's fair to mention this because I've brought up a couple of examples that a lot of people, it would be a longer road to victory for some than for others. If you're obviously a pro football player
Hmm.
and you're that particular pro
Hmm.
football player who's always had that in mind since he was a kid,
Yeah.
you're going to have it helps to have some of the resources. And
Hmm.
certainly you got to have the desire, the dream,
Hmm.
the, the courage to push forward, to continue to push forward,
Hmm.
and to not take no for an answer. If you're, as most of us are, just regular people working a job and you want to help, these other examples should not make you feel small. You're just as big. Your idea for you is just as big. So if you're, for example, walking in I don't know, past a store and there's someone sitting there that looks hungry,
Hmm.
and I understand the whole danger factor and people are afraid and this and that.
Hmm.
But if you just address the person, just
Yeah.
say hello. Is there anything I can do for? I did one the other day. The other day at Safeway, it was a funny response because I walked past a guy going in this store. And it was a cold day. He's sitting out by Safeway and looking at his phone. And I go in. I'm thinking, man, it's a chilly day. I'm going to get him a hot chocolate. So I go to the Starbucks because there's a Starbucks everywhere, as you know.
Hmm.
I got him a chocolate. I walk out and I go, "Hi, what's your name?" "Dave." "How are you, Dave?" "I'm good. Would you like a hot chocolate?" "No, thanks." So I thought, wait a second. I don't want a hot chocolate. I didn't say, wait a second. But I thought to myself, that's my fault. I
Yeah.
should have said hello on the way in and asked him. But I laughed all the way home as I drank the hot chocolate. So not everybody's going to say yes. Thank you for being my savior. Some people
Hmm.
might even yell at you, but you got
Hmm.
to try. You know,
Hmm.
that's all.
Yeah, yeah. I've had in the past too, especially when I feel I'm in a good space where I've seen someone. So I'll go in the store and I'll buy hot soup and a sandwich
Yeah,
and then go chat with them, and I'll say, well, what happened? What's going on? Why are you sitting here? And you'll get a story, you'll learn about this person.
true.
And
Yeah,
and I think too, I've done a lot of work when I was doing a lot in construction. I was on the board of the Master Builders Care Foundation, and what we did was we would link um, um, construction companies with care providers,
I
and then
remember that. Yes.
yeah, and we'd be
Yeah.
able to build transitional housing and stuff. And so through that experience, again, I we realized we can we can look at someone that is on the streets and pass judgment based on what we think, and we really don't know how they got there or why they got there. um, I learned that so many people, by no act upon their own, are forced out on the street or living in their
Right.
cars. And and just knowing that it can happen to anyone, and so
Yes.
I will catch myself, though. I'll have an opinion in my mind and I'm like, okay, Trace, but I catch it, like, all right. And they're human beings. People are human, and it could be me. I could be, out there for some reason. And so um really doing that work to hold off that part of my brain that wants to pass judgment or wants to have a strong opinion, but say, oh my gosh, this person's a human. and and I don't
Yeah.
know why they're there. I can only imagine. and kind of give some empathy. Again, breathe through our heart, right? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
we may not be able to help them. They may not want help, but um, I find my when I look at it that way, I just feel better,
yeah, yeah, you
you
do.
know. And then
Yes.
I think too, our energy will impact someone else's. You can't not, we don't, we're gonna feel, you know, you can just look at someone or you know their vibes off or something, and you're like, what's
Yeah.
going on with you? Why are you? And they're like, oh, I didn't think you could tell. Like, now you can tell, you know. So,
Well, you know, there's something as too as simple as the way you approach someone. In recent weeks, I've had a bunch of physical, mental, not mental, but probably need a mental test, but physical tests for this thing that I'm dealing with. So I've been to
mhm,
hospitals and doctor offices, and you always have a receptionist. You walk in, the first person you see, and I always have. I do this with everybody. I will have even if I'm not feeling that great, I will force myself to smile the
yeah.
biggest I can smile. I will look into their eyes, and the first thing I say is, "How are you?" And some people are absolutely stunned. Oh, I'm fine.
Uh,
I'm thinking, wait a second, does
you
nobody
looking at
ever
me?
ask you? I no, and I think it does two things.
Yeah.
First of all, it makes me feel better.
Mhm.
Secondly, it always gets you better service. It just does. And it could be
Kindness.
someone on the phone. You
Yeah.
know, it's just better if you go in with the right, it's
Mhm.
like my mother used to call it, a loving attitude,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
Yeah.
so true. She had a great saying called love is reflected in love. It's like
I'm,
when you, that's why I wrote my smile in the mirror. Because my dad,
oh.
when I was working the barber shop, my dad used to tell us before a customer comes in, make sure you are smiling. If you want to
Mhm.
practice in the mirror, go ahead. He just
Mhm.
would say that because my dad was kind of a wise guy. So go ahead, practice in the mirror. Let me see you smile.
That explains a
So
lot about you. No, just kidding.
that's why, yeah. But
The
he's
wise
right.
guy.
There's nothing you do. The worst thing in the world is when you walk into a business, a store, or whatever, and the person that you see behind the counter is in a glum kind of a mood. And you're going,
Mhm.
well, shoot, I don't blame you because I'd hate working here too, or whatever you're thinking. If you
Mhm.
can smile and just ask them how their day is going, even if they say, you know, most of them won't say it's going lousy. Oh, hold on a second.
No way.
This is probably
The person you were
it's a,
going to call back before.
it's a doctor's office calling me,
Oh,
but it says potential spam. So I
okay.
just saw it calling back. But anyway, so yeah, that's the bottom line.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
what was the other one? Yeah, love is
I
reflected in love.
love that. Love is reflected in love. I
That's
know
the best
that's
one.
by your mom. I love that.
Yep, she was great that way.
Mhm. So fill me in then. So the good we do in March. So and on YouTube. So you must have a YouTube station or you're going
Actually,
to.
yeah, I've got it. Here's what I'm doing. I'll bring full disclosure. I'm bringing in a friend of mine who's a former Microsoft guy. He's going to set up a studio for me. We're going to
Mhm.
get to make sure I've got a YouTube channel. I got to make sure it's been months since I put anything on there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to my name on YouTube, there's a bunch of television stuff from 40 years ago.
Mhm.
And there's interviews I've done within the last 6 months too. But I
Mhm.
want to make sure that I'm putting all these in the right place, that I've got the right looking studio. And
Mhm.
then my daughter is coming up from Portland. She's a teacher. She
Mhm.
edits videos she edits videos quite often for her dance classes. She
Mhm.
teaches school dance and coaches volleyball down in Vancouver, Washington. So she's a good editor. What I want to do is I'll go on Facebook. I'll talk about the person for a minute and a half or two, and then I'll
Mhm.
lay in some pictures of them, and that'll
Mhm.
be that. I probably won't interview them. I'll just let people know, okay,
I love
here's
it.
what's Michael Reagan's doing. Here's how you get a
Mhm.
hold of him. Here's what so and so is doing. And I'm not going to give everybody's personal information because a lot of people don't want to be recognized beyond the fact that they help somebody at a grocery store. And that's cool. I just
Mhm.
want to do it so that people begin to watch when they feel like they want something positive.
Positive. Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing it. It's not going to be,
Mhm.
we're not going to do long interviews with people. We'll just keep it
Mhm.
simple. Now, if it
Mhm.
comes to a point where it's truly successful, then I will come and consult with you and see how you set your stuff up.
That
And
sounds
we'll go from there.
that would go from there. Well,
For
I love
now,
it.
though, I'm just going to send you guests.
There you go. You can send me guests. Absolutely.
Oh,
I can do the heavy lifting in that arena. Absolutely. I'd be honored. Absolutely honored. Um, well, I'm excited and I think too, it's going to be able to inspire people. Like if they watch that, then they may have thought, gosh, I want to do more, but I have no clue what to do. And nothing's resonated yet. I wonder, gosh, someone could inspire an idea,
yeah.
that someone
Yeah.
could then just on one of your brief announcements, and where you're featuring someone that it could I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see what you put out there. And I know it's going to have a really positive impact on many people. And I'm excited just to see what people are doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
That's the key. That's the key. And I want to keep
Mhm.
it simple because
Mhm.
I want people to know, I mostly want people to know that we are not a nation of bitter, nasty people. Now,
Mhm.
there are those folks, including me, occasionally, who will have an attitude where you want to yell at somebody.
I think
But the
that
point,
everybody has a moment like that.
yeah, but to curb that,
Mhm.
and let's face it, too, it doesn't help that this is a political year, and
Yeah.
that politics today, unfortunately, now politics today is not as bad as the news makes it out to be. Because if
Right.
you actually go to the state legislature or
Mhm.
the U.S. Congress and sit
Mhm.
on a session or
Mhm.
go to the subcommittee meetings, which you're not going to be able to get into at the higher level, but
Mhm.
you will see Republicans working with Democrats.
Mhm.
It's being
Exactly.
done, but it
Exactly.
doesn't get exposed
Yeah.
because it's positive.
It
And
doesn't sell. Yeah.
yeah, you've got to know that there are
Mhm.
many, many, many far more good people in the world
Yes.
than bad. That's my message.
Yep.
And just to make sure we're going to expose even more of them. That's
I
my
love
goal.
it. I love it. I love it. Well, Tony, it's been amazing having you on. I really appreciate your time and your friendship, and I'm so glad that we met all those years ago
Yeah, me too. Me too.
during the
No,
big
this is
hair
good.
days and the.
That's right, man. I am proud of what you've done and are
Thank
doing,
you.
and I will send you guests
Oh, I would be
and
so appreciative. I would
be,
be
be and I'll keep following all of your great work too.
great. Thank you. And again,
Okay, let me
everyone.
think.
Oh,
What
what's
was
that?
the name of the one quick question before I let you go?
Mhm.
What the heck was the name of the sisters in The Odd Couple? How come I'm forgetting that?
The Pigeon
That's
Sisters.
right, the Pigeon Sisters. That's right. I played
Yeah.
Oscar Madison.
Yep.
Greg Hayes played Felix.
My sister
David
played.
Blacker was in
Oh,
that one.
that's right. And
And
then,
I just, yeah,
yeah, I remember, so it was me and another person, and then she left the show, and I said, "Hey, my sister acts. She's an actress." So
that's right.
Gretchen ended up playing the other pigeon sister with me.
You guys were great. You
So,
guys were so good. With the
so-
British accents,
oh yeah.
that's a super show. I love that show. Well, Trace, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so
It's
much
been
for
a
having me on.
pleasure. Yes, thanks for being on. And again, everyone, start following Tony's YouTube page. It's well, by the time this was recorded and probably out, he may have already put some stuff up there. And
Yeah.
follow him on Facebook. So again, Tony, thanks a
Also,
million.
and
And
I do have a website. It's just tonyventrella.com.
oh, right.
And
Yep.
there'll be information on the website already in the
Okay.
column. If you go to the website along the top, there's a column, books, podcast,
Okay.
public speaking. If you go to the
Perfect.
column, I'm doing a sports column couple times a week, and that will become the Good We Do column too.
Oh, great. Okay.
TonyVentrella.com.
TonyVentrella.com.
There it
All right.
is.
Okay.
Take care, Trace.
All right. Take care. I'm going to pause this out. Thanks everyone for being on watching Your Personal Journey with Food.